Game 17 of the Premier League season 2018-19 is in the history books. There were plenty of tasty encounters that provided plenty of talking points, plenty of action, and most importantly, plenty of goals, and some were absolute quality goals at that. So without further ado, let's get into the analysis and review of each of the games. And of course, there is only one place to begin, and that's with the ever tasty, mouth-watering encounter that is Liverpool versus Manchester United. We begin with a man-of-the-match performance from Xherdan Shaqiri as he came off the bench to become the hero as Liverpool returned to the top of the table after the Reds beat Jose Mourinho's Manchester United 3-1 at Anfield. The majority of the game was dominated by Liverpool, and the opening exchanges saw Liverpool go close for Roberto Firmino, who forced a good save from David De Gea. Eventually, Liverpool's pressure did actually pay off, and they got the opening goal through Sadio Mane, who controlled Fabinho's clever ball brilliantly before firing under De Gea and finding the back of the net. Despite being on the back foot through most of the first half, United were gifted a route back into the game when Alisson made an uncharacteristic-like error in not gathering in Romelu Lukaku's cross. The ball then fell kindly to Jesse Lingard, who slid home to equalise for the Red Devils. But in the second half, Reds continued the pressure, and eventually the introduction of Shaqiri helped the Reds retake the lead and then kill off the game. First, Mane broke through down the left and got into the penalty area, and his cutback was deflected towards goal, but De Gea managed to save it, but the Spanish goalkeeper only managed to put it into the path of Shaqiri, who rushed onto the ball and fired home with a little help from Ashley Young's deflection. The Swiss international then put the game beyond all doubt later on when a 1-2 hit between him and Firmino ended with the winger firing beyond De Gea yet again, and again it was with the help of another deflection. But regardless, the Reds saw out the game comfortably to claim all 3 points and retake top spot. It was a game that many expected the way for it to go. Liverpool showed their class and were rightful winners. The Reds were quality, especially in midfield, where United were virtually non-existent throughout the game. And apart from a rare mistake by Alisson, United didn't even challenge Liverpool at all. And maybe the majority of that was down to how good Liverpool were, but I just think Mourinho's side came to try and park the bus. And of course, with how good Liverpool were on the day and how they managed to grind out many chances, they managed to destroy that bus. But regardless, Liverpool take back top spot after Manchester City made that place their own for 24 hours after beating Everton 3-1 at the Etihad. Klopp breaks the Mourinho hoodoo that was hanging over him, and now the Premier League leaders can look to facing Wolves on Friday night. As for United and Mourinho, this game has proven United are streets behind Liverpool, and there needs to be big questions asked of the team and of the manager in the next few weeks. Mourinho, is he the right man for the job? And for players like Paul Pogba especially, is his time at United coming to an end? They're the two big questions that need to be answered ASAP, because there's a massive rift there. United stay in 6th, 11 points off of top 4 and 19 points off of Liverpool. And next weekend they face Cardiff, who may be fancying the chances against this United side. Our next game saw Manchester City redeem themselves for their defeat last week to Chelsea by getting back to winning ways at the expense of Everton after Pep Guardiola's side hammered the Toffees 3-1 at the Etihad. City did not reclaim, they reclaimed top spot for about 24 hours before Liverpool's result against Manchester United. But regardless, Manchester City stay in 2nd. Everton had a golden opportunity to take the lead, but it was Richarlison who volleyed over after being picked out at the far post by Lucas Digne's cross. Moments later, City punished Everton for that miss when Gabriel Jesus ended his goal drought, finishing well after Leroy Sané slipped him through on goal. Like buses, when you wait for one, two come along at once, and shortly after half time, Jesus did indeed grab his second goal of the game. Sané again was the provider when his pinpoint cross picked out the Brazilian striker, whose header beat Jordan Pickford in the Everton goal. Dominic Calvert-Lewin then halved the deficit on the hour mark to give Everton some hope of a comeback, but substitute Raheem Sterling, mere minutes after Everton had got their goal back, restored City's 2-goal lead with a simple header from close range after Fernandinho's cross picked out the winger as City put the game beyond all doubt. Big 3 points for City after what's been a difficult week for both the club and especially for Raheem Sterling, who's been very brave to come out and speak his mind on a serious topic and finished off the week helping his team to a victory by getting on the score sheet. The performance was professionally done, and of course the result means that City keep pace with Liverpool at the top of the table after the Reds beat Manchester United 3-1. The title race just continues to heat up though, regardless, so it's definitely keeping it all exciting. And the next stage of City's road to the title sees Crystal Palace visit the Etihad next week, but before that they have a Carabao Cup quarter-final encounter with Leicester. As for Everton, whenever you face City, you have to see it as a bit of a free swing, you feel, and then you move on. They were outplayed on the pitch by the better side. They didn't really help themselves, especially for the opening goal. Playing out at the back wasn't really working for them, and they did receive some warning signs before Jesus put City in front, but they didn't heed those warnings and continued to play their way, and eventually they were punished. They'll look for a better result next week when they face Tottenham at Goodison Park. Our next game featured Ralph Hasenhüttl's first victory as Southampton boss at the expense of Arsenal's 22-game unbeaten streak, as the Saints caused, with all due respect, a bit of an upset at St Mary's. The home side drew first blood on the 20th minute mark when Danny Ings headed home Matt Targett's superb cross. The lead though only lasted for 8 minutes as Arsenal soon equalised. Nacho Monreal down the left wing provided a cross that was met by Henrik Mkhitaryan, who headed home. But the Saints did go on to restore their lead on the stroke of half time. Danny Ings again with another headed goal, this time heading home Nathan Redmond's cross. During the interval, Arsenal introduced Alexander Lacazette and he made an instant impact for the Gunners. With the help of Matteo Guendouzi, their pressing forced Oriol Romeu into a mistake in losing possession, and the Frenchman teed up Mkhitaryan to have a strike at goal, and with the help of a deflection, the ball found its way into the back of the net after wrong footing Alex McCarthy in the Saints' goal. But the Saints did actually go on to score once again, but this time it was ruled out for offside as Shane Long's goal was judged to be offside after goalkeeper Bert Leno in the Arsenal goal made a brilliant save to deny Maya Yoshida. Long got on the rebound, but the flag went up anyway. But there was no denying the Saints' actual winning goal 5 minutes from time when Charlie Austin, who was on as a substitute, headed home Shane Long's cross after Bern Leno misjudged the flight of the ball, and Austin had the simple task of heading into an empty net. It's a superb result this for Southampton, and it might be early days, but you can already sense there's a slightly different feel about this Southampton team. A few weeks ago, if they'd been pegged back to level terms, they may have gone on to crumble and be defeated once more. But now, they just got pegged back not once, but twice, and showed real character and resilience to continue to fight back against an Arsenal side who, of course, had that incredible run come to an end in this game. But Southampton got their reward and the winning goal, so fair play to them. And this is also their first home win, let's not forget. This is also their first home win of the season. and they had put a pretty good performance in. And if this is a sign of more things to come, then Southampton should be excited about the future and should see themselves being safe, but only if things continue. They do continue next week when they face Huddersfield, a fellow struggling side themselves, on Saturday. As for Arsenal, all good things must come to an end, of course. Their 22-game unbeaten streak is over, and you can now look at things like their defence being stretched in numbers right now due to injuries and suspensions, and you can look at their players, the big players further up the pitch, putting in below par performances. But these things happen. You go again, and they go again on Wednesday night. Another North London derby, the second one in a matter of weeks, in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. But as far as the Premier League goes, they're back in action against Burnley on Saturday. Our next game saw Pedro and Eden Hazard both get on the score sheet as Maurizio Sarri's side were victorious at the Amex Stadium against the Brighton side, who have now suffered back-to-back defeats. 17 minutes were on the clock when Chelsea broke the deadlock. Eden Hazard showed a burst of speed to get away from the Seagulls' defence before firing across the face of goal, and Pedro was there to strike into the back of the net. Hazard then himself got on the score sheet shortly after the half-hour mark. Brighton gave away possession fairly easily on the halfway line, and Willian played through the Belgian winger, who raced away from the Seagulls' defence, and with a nice finish, doubled the Blues' lead. Pedro went on to fire over, and Marcos Alonso hit the post as Chelsea went in search of a third goal to properly put the game beyond doubt. But it was the home side who halved the deficit and set up an interesting end to the game when Solly March scored from close range. But despite suffering a late scare when Lewis Dunk headed just wide of the target, Chelsea saw the game through to take all 3 points. For those who watched the preview show, my prediction for this game was pretty much spot on. I predicted that it would end 2-1 to Chelsea, with both Pedro and Hazard scoring for the Blues. And okay, I may have said that Glenn Murray to score for Brighton instead of the actual goal scorer, which was Solly March, but I was mostly right. Anyway, in all seriousness, good result for Chelsea away at the Amex. I said before Chelsea would find it tough as Brighton are no pushovers, and they certainly found that out. Eden Hazard was the vocal point of all things positive for Chelsea going forward, and throughout the game he took centre stage. As for their next game, Chelsea are in Carabao Cup action this week against Bournemouth, and following this they are back at the Bridge where they face Leicester. As for the Seagulls, back-to-back losses now, 2 tough results to take against 2 teams that are at opposite ends of the table. The Seagulls fall to 13th and have Bournemouth to contend with next week. A late Christian Eriksen goal broke Burnley hearts and kept Tottenham's hold of 3rd place intact as Spurs claim victory at Wembley over Burnley in our next game. Tottenham had the better of the chances in the first half, with Lucas Moura volleying wide before Harry Kane felt he should have been awarded a penalty when he collided with James Tarkowski in the penalty area, but the referee waved away all protests. But Burnley was standing firm, and if it wasn't for a Kane block, Ashley Barnes would have scored in the second half after a well-worked Clarets free kick. Joe Hart then had to be alert to deny Eric Lamela after Danny Rose's cross picked out the Argentine winger in the penalty area, as it looked like Burnley had done enough to earn a point from this game, as both Heung-min Son and Dele Alli had fired wide. But right at the death, Tottenham broke the deadlock and won the game. Ali's chested ball into Kane was laid off to Eriksen by the England striker, and he fired home to secure all 3 points from Maurizio Pochettino's side. A below par performance from Tottenham. That game midweek against Barcelona may have taken a lot out of the players, but take nothing away from Burnley, who put in a decent display and were resolute up until Eriksen's goal in the dying embers of the game. It's a good 3 points for Tottenham, considering both Chelsea and Arsenal are gunning for those top 4 places. Both had winnable games. Obviously, Chelsea won theirs, Arsenal dropped points. So it's been a good week good weekend if you're a Tottenham fan. They now turn their attention to their Carabao Cup encounter with the Gunners. Actually, they're bitter rivals, so that should be another interesting clash to look forward to. But back in Premier League action the following weekend, where Everton await them on Sunday. As for Burnley, hard result to take considering how late the winner came. It was a good performance from Burnley up until that point, but there's no denying that Burnley have upped their game somewhat in recent weeks. And more performances like that, followed by starting to put their chances away, I should say, surely would see them survive another season in England's top tier division. They take their bid for survival to Arsenal next week. Not an easy place to go, of course. Not an easy task by any means. But during this busy period of games, Burnley will be hoping to catch the Gunners cold at the Emirates. Our next game saw West Ham make it 4 wins on the bounce, as 2 first half goals were enough to see off Fulham at Craven Cottage. It was actually Fulham who had the better of the opening exchanges. First, Andre Schürrle fired over from outside the penalty area, and next Alexander Mitrovic played through Abubakar Kamara, who really should have done better when one-on-one with Lucas Fabianski, as the Hammers goalkeeper came out on top in that encounter. But it was Manuel Pellegrini's side who took the lead with their first real attack, as Felipe Anderson down the left teed up Robert Snodgrass, whose curling effort found the back of the net. Kamara again forced another couple of saves from Fabianski shortly after the goal, as Fulham went in search of an equaliser, but just before the half-hour mark, Fulham were dealt another cruel blow when West Ham doubled their lead. Anderson's cross was flicked on by Javier Hernandez, and at the back post was Mikel Antonio, who took one touch to put it onto his left foot, and with his second touch slid the ball through the legs of Sergio Rico in the Fulham goal. That goal seemed to kill off Fulham, as West Ham went on to see the game out from there throughout the entirety of the second half, without Fulham laying a single glove on them. Good 3 points for West Ham. Wasn't pretty, but it continues their momentum during this busy period of games, and like I said, it stretches their winning run to 4 games on the bounce. I gotta talk about Felipe Anderson though. What a player. He's just been so instrumental in all things good about West Ham recently, and I'm a little surprised that a few of the bigger teams in England or even the rest of Europe didn't try to sign this guy. He's quality and is starting to show it on a more consistent basis, and I'm sure West Ham will have a fight on their hands to keep him come this summer. As for Fulham, not a terrible performance by any means. They had a go at best at getting a result, but just like all season, defensively they're just so poor. Ranieri should be looking at this issue in the upcoming transfer window and swiftly be addressing it. There's no leadership back there, there's no awareness, and it looks as if this team are going straight back down to the Championship unless things change quickly. Their road to survival takes them straight to Newcastle next Saturday, whilst West Ham will see if they can make it 5 wins in a row when they take on Watford. The next game saw Solomon Rondon as the difference maker, as his second half goal between 2 of the Premier League struggling sides in Huddersfield and Newcastle at the John Smith Stadium was the goal that separated the 2 sides and gave the Magpies all 3 points with the victory. Philip Billing forced Martin Dubravka into making a fine stop when his strike from distance was well saved, whilst at the other end, Jonas Lossell got down low to deny Fabian Schär from close range. Lossell again needed to be alert in the second half. Christian Atsu in the penalty area hit a strike at goal, which was parried away by the Terriers goalkeeper, but there was little he could do about the Magpies goal that soon followed. Ayoze Perez played through Javier Manquillo, and the Spanish right-back played a nice ball into the path of Rondon in the penalty area, who produced a smart finish to put Newcastle ahead. Newcastle should have doubled their lead late on when Jose Perez's clever little chipped finish over Lossell found its way into the back of the net, but the linesman put his flag up for offside, despite replay showing Perez was onside and the linesman got that decision wrong. But in the end, Rondon's goal was enough to claim all 3 points for Rafa Benitez and Newcastle. A great victory for Newcastle. It was much needed too, as it now means that the Magpies have ended their 3-game run without a win. For Huddersfield, this spells real trouble for them. It's not even as if they were playing badly either. They were okay for the majority of the game, but were toothless in attack, and that's basically been the story of their season. It begs the question of, will they go out in January and try and find a hidden gem of a striker to help their striking woes? They will definitely need to try something when the transfer window opens, or else Premier League survival will be an extremely tough ask this season. As for the Magpies, I've backed them to survive from the beginning. It won't be easy by any means, but with the manager they have in Rafa Benitez, he's the right man for the job. It will be interesting to see if they are active in the upcoming transfer window, particularly in midfield, but before they can look ahead to January, they have another struggling side in Fulham to contend with next week, whilst the Terriers are also in action against a fellow struggling side in Southampton, as the battle to avoid relegation really does begin to heat up. Our next game saw a Luka Milivojevic screamer be the difference maker as Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace beat Leicester at Selhurst Park. Palace were let off the hook very early on when Jamie Vardy had the ball in the back of the net after catching goalkeeper Vicente Guaita in possession and rolling the ball into the back of the net. But the former England striker was judged to have fouled the debuting goalkeeper, so the goal was ruled out. Palace did though go on to break the deadlock themselves 6 minutes from the end of the first half. Milivojevic from distance arrowed his effort into the corner of the net to give the Eagles the lead. After the restart, Leicester were in hot pursuit of an equaliser. Demarai Gray had a couple of attempts on goal that he put wide of the target before substitute Rashid Ghazel volley wide of the target as well, and the best chance of the half did fall to the Foxes in Jamie Vardy. Ghazel's pass into Kelechi Iheanacho was helped on through the defence first time to Vardy through on goal, but his effort was parried by Guaita onto the post, and fortunately for him, the ball rebounded back to him as Palace saw the game out comfortably and collected all 3 points. Great win for Palace, who were without their talisman Wilfried Zaha. Like I said, this team is like the yo-yo team of 1 week they'll look safe, the next week they'll look in real danger. They have no consistent striker who's clinical enough to get them like a 15 goals plus season record. But for now, they can enjoy this result against a tough opposition and go about their business again next week. As for the Foxes, they're in the same boat when it comes to being clinical in front of goal. They create the chances, but are without that little bit of luck or killer instinct up front right now that they really, really need. That was evident on the day, but the upside is at least Jamie Vardy's back, and hopefully he can spark some sort of goal-scoring run. Both sides face Manchester City this week, with Leicester facing Pep Guardiola's side first in the Carabao Cup, and that is before they face Chelsea on Saturday, whilst Palace face City in Premier League action on Saturday. The penultimate game on this review video saw Watford end their 6-game winless run with a 3-2 victory over Cardiff. Gerard Deulofeu got the Hornets off to a great start with just over a quarter of an hour played. His run beat 2 Cardiff defenders before side-footing the ball into the back of the net. Neil Etheridge then came to the rescue as he denied Watford a second goal, saving well from Roberto Pereira both in the first half and then again in the second half, but there was nothing he could have done about Watford's eventual second goal. A nice flowing move by the Hornets ended with Delafeu turning from goalscorer to provider as he teed up Jose Holibas, whose curling shot from distance found the back of the net. Watford added the third goal later on and seemingly put the game to bed. It was another case of good build-up play on the edge of the Cardiff penalty area, and it ended with a well-placed shot from Domingos Quina finding the corner of the net. That should have been game over. That should have been it for this game. But two quick-fire goals from Cardiff set up an intriguing finale to this game. First, Junior Hoylett cut inside from the left wing position and unleashed a superb curling right-footed strike that beat Ben Foster in the Watford goal. And barely a couple of minutes later, Cardiff reduced the deficit further when a long throw caused mayhem in the Watford penalty area, and from that scramble, Bobby Reid poked the ball home to set up an interesting finale to the game, but the Hornets managed to see the game out. Good for Watford to get their winning ways back, but they almost messed it up completely with how things went. Things were going really well at 3-0. They looked good on the ball, looked comfortable, and then all of a sudden, Hoylett's wonder goal upset them a little bit. This was a game full of quality goals though, seriously, do check this game out. 4 of the 5 goals here were of immense quality. But in the end, it's the Hornets who edge out Cardiff, end their winless streak and go up to 10th. As for Cardiff, Neil Warnock will feel annoyed that they didn't give it a real go until they were 3-0 down, but they want to move on quickly from this result. And next week they face Manchester United, who I may have mentioned in this video previously. They may fancy their chances against Jose Mourinho's side next week. It'll definitely be an interesting game to look out for. As for the Hornets, they face West Ham next Saturday. And finally, Wolves claimed a 2-0 victory against Bournemouth with Raul Jimenez and Ivan Cavallero scoring at Molineux to make it 3 wins on the bounce for Wanderers. Wolves opened the scoring, capitalising on a mistake from Charlie Daniels as his crossfield pass went straight to Diego Jota, who sped past the Bournemouth defence before firing across the face of goal, picking out Raul Jimenez, who made no mistake in turning the ball home from close range. Jefferson Lerma fired a long-distance effort straight at Rui Patricio in the Wolves' goal for the away side, in the only real attempt of note for Eddie Howe's side in that half. In the second half though, Wolves had a great opportunity to get their second goal when Helder Costa fired over after racing away on the counter-attack, before at the other end, Junior Stanislas hit the post from a Cherries free kick. But it was right at the death that Wolves secured the victory, and the 3 points by Cavallero himself, whose 1-2 with Costa hit Bournemouth on the counter-attack, and after racing through one-on-one with Asmir Begovic, the Portuguese striker finished well to put the game to bed. It's a very, very good win for Wolves, who now move into 7th place in the table, a single point behind Manchester United in fact. It was a game about two sides who like to play nice and attractive football, and on another day, maybe Bournemouth would have scored. They definitely had the chances to do so, but in this game, it's Wolves that have edged the Cherries out here, and things are beginning to nosedive a little bit for Eddie Howe's side, in all honesty, who had enjoyed a rather good season until recently, where their form has took a bit of a nosedive, as I said. Wolves take their good run of form into the game against Liverpool on Friday night, whilst Bournemouth face Chelsea in Carabao Cup action midweek before returning to the Premier League, where they face Brighton on Saturday. And that wraps up this review video for Game 17 of the 2018-19 season. Guys, if you have any thoughts or opinions on any of the games that happened or took place this weekend, whether it was a game you went to, a game that you watched, a game that caught your eye, a team you were supporting, a team that you just like the look of, or maybe it was even one of your rivals, I don't mind. If you have any thoughts or opinions on anything of that nature, then feel free to put them in the comment section below. I'd love to read them. Otherwise, thank you for watching and listening, Hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new, or subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Either would be very much appreciated. Thank you again for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Reviews Premier League football show, video, whatever you want to call it. And I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.